What's the good word, Josh? Your boy DKB here. So we've broken down our top 5 offensive tackles so far for the 2024 NFL draft class. We know wide receiver and finding a partner for Garrett Wilson is another primary objective for us. And so we are breaking down our top 5 wide receivers from this same draft class as well. And I'm obviously excluding Marvin Harrison because it's going to take an act from the football gods for the New York Jets to be able to acquire him. I mean, even if he starts to slide down the board for whatever reason, let's say he gets to the 4th, 5th pick, we still don't see him get picked up. This isn't really the we're not set up in a situation where we need to trade up to get him and spend even further resources. But none ado, let's give the spotlight to the player that deserves it right now. Malik Nabers, the number 2 wide receiver in this particular draft class. And it's interesting because Marvin Harrison is generational, and that seems to be the only reason Malik Nabers wouldn't be able to crack the number 1 spot, right? I think I'm confident at this point in saying in most other drafts, let's say over the last 15 years, if you don't have a generational type wide receiver, Malik Nabers could be your number 1 in any of those classes, right? And he's that serious. I mean, it's interesting looking at his physical profile versus his skill set and what he can do. So let's go ahead and dive into it. LSU boy, 6 foot, 200 pounds. He was a former 4-star recruit. He's made an impact in every season at LSU. I mean, the way his production has skyrocketed has been insane to watch over his 3-year career here. He ended up leading the program as the all-time reception leader and ranked 2nd in yards, I believe. I did see a little bit of a discrepancy there. He could be number 1 there as well, but you're talking about Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson being some of the recent names that have come out of LSU, yet Malik Nabers has found a way to top all of them. He's been the MVP of the 2023 Citrus Bowl. That is a specific highlight for me because a lot of these high-profile guys you see not care about this, any of these bowl games. They want to go out there and start their draft prep, and in certain cases, they don't want any kind of particular, miscues in the game or anything to kind of start tanking, their draft stock a little bit early. So love to see that. He made Bruce Feldman's 2023 Freaks list. I believe he came in at number 33. Has a crazy vertical jump, right? I think he's around the 40-inch mark. Has a ridiculous clean. That's kind of his 2 specialties. Viewed a little bit more as a slot receiver, right? I want to say I saw that he's played over his career about 56% of the time out of the slot. Don't let that fool you, though. He definitely has the versatility. He also has the build, 6 foot, 200 pounds, to be able to play the X and the Z spots, which is something the New York Jets would particularly be looking to key in on. So what makes this guy one of the most elite wide receivers that you'll come across in any draft class? Explosive route runner, right? Generally, when you have a starting wide receiver option, not just that, but a guy you feel like can step in and be a number 1 option in the offense right away, it usually comes through route running ability, right? Even if you have a elite release, if you can't separate from your opponents, if you allow your defenders to get in there and make everything a contested catch, then it kind of erases and nullifies anything else. But he has route running in his bag, and it's crazy to say that that's also something you can see him still continue to improve, right? There's still plenty of nuances there that you'd love to see get a little bit cleaner with him. But going in, he's about as safe of a prospect as you can get in a wide receiver. He changes gears subtly is something that I really like. A guy that not just can run super fast, but he knows how to almost kind of rock you to sleep, right? If you will, take a look at basketball players, a guy that might do a slow, hesitation, maybe a double dribble, and then he can just take off on you 1-2 steps, and maybe he's at the basket, right? Similar kind of situations here. And I want to say I recall a scout that I heard breaking down the draft class saying that it was either LSU or Ohio State, but they have these interesting it might have been somebody that moved to the NFL now, but either way, the main point I'm trying to get is they had an interesting practice habit that's kind of been picking up steam across the board, not only in the pro ranks but in college, where guys are mimicking and imitating, basketball movements at the line of scrimmage as a way to improve parts of their game. I think you can see same elements of that here with a guy like Malik Nabers. One of the best parts of his game, he can track the ball mid-stride. The deep threat ability that he provides is really the biggest selling point here. Outside of his yards after catch, specialist ability, right? This is a guy that really feels like on any given play, he can break something big for you, help change the perplexity of any single drive. Can alter his timing for underthrown passes. That's something that you love to see, not just a guy that needs everything perfect to work on a play. Physical in the slot as well as on the boundary when he's playing in those X and Z roles. Strong zone coverage ability, so he knows when he needs to break off routes, when he needs to maybe play schoolyard football, try to find his way back to the quarterback to help them out and make something happen. One of the better jump ball contests, right? This is where he really starts to show off some of that vertical jump ability on display, where I would say, I don't want to say more often than not, but you do have a high level of confidence in him coming away with 50-50 balls. Difficult in the open field. Again, this is a guy that right out of the gate, he could be yards after catch specialist. Strong lower body build, so you're not going to see a lot of guys get those shoestring tackles or tap him on the thigh and he's going down. He's looking to run through, run around, and run over any and everybody that he can to get into the end zone. High points most balls. Typically, you see some of the best examples on this on any vertical routes, more so goes, and then a lot of back shoulder throws for him. Has a great burst, right? You get a little concerned about the long speed, and we'll talk about all of that in a moment. But initially, this is a guy that is going to thrive in the short and intermediate range of the field, right? His ability to change direction, the stop and go again, the subtle shift in gears that are going to catch a lot of people off guard. All of that goes into play here. A threat on any route that attacks vertically before it breaks, and this gets into some of that explosive route running ability that he has. Not only do you see him do a lot of damage at LSU on those vertical routes, but when you see him be able to break things off, show what he can do at the top of stems and different things of that nature. Take, for example, curl digs and hinge routes. You can really see some of the better nuances of his route running ability that makes him one of the better in this draft class. Has an elite balance. Again, this is a guy that more often than not, he's not getting taken down by the first guy, and that doesn't matter if he's in the open field or if he's in a one-on-one situation. And an underrated piece of his game is that he's a pretty physical blocker, right? It's interesting kind of watching some of the film just because you don't always see the physicality shine through in everything that he does. But again, specifically just looking at the Jets offense here, but really anybody in the NFL, they love anybody that's not an offensive lineman that looks like they're a superb blocker at their position. I think this is a piece of Malik Nabers' game that a lot of people are going to find to be a pleasant surprise. Few elements that he needs to work on, right? Needs to be able to consistently stack and separate deep. One of the biggest call outs for Malik Nabers is going to be his production and how efficient he looks versus man coverage. If a guy can get his hands on him consistently, can kind of rough him up in those first 5 yards, you can see him kind of get taken out of plays more than you would like to see on film. Plenty of people suffer versus press coverage, but this is something as one of the top prospects you would love to see be a strong point of his game. You can't really say that right now, but keep in mind the production that he's had, over 1,500 yards. I think he had 14 touchdowns, over 70 receptions in the 2023 season. That didn't seem to be something that really was going to stop him a ton. Also, he's playing in one of the best conferences in football coming out of the SEC. We know what that LSU program is about. So he's facing NFL level talent week in and week out, right? This is a guy that what you feel comfortable seeing on film is going to translate well to the pros. Needs to, he needs more releases and routes in his arsenal. So for as much of a route running technician as he has, that's based on what LSU has asked him to do. You feel, I would say, again, there's a lot of improvements he can make in terms of some of the nuances in his routes, but this is a guy that can only continue to get deadlier, right? Especially if you pair him up with somebody that's already kind of a route running aficionado, depending on where he gets drafted to. But again, at this point, you're just kind of splitting hairs with his game. And then he doesn't win with pure speed, right? So this is a guy that, even though you would call him a deep threat, even though we've seen him consistently just crush defenders from 2022 to 2023, this isn't a guy that just, we're on a track, we're going out 60 yards. He's not going to burn some of the more athletic cornerbacks and or safeties to hit pay dirt. This is a guy that really ends up using some of that physicality, his vertical ability, of course, his own athletic traits, but really some of that route running that he's been able to develop over the last 3 years to make things look easier for him than what they really are. So just keep an eye out on that. This isn't a guy that you just expect to blow past people. I think the expected time frame he'll kind of run in right now is about 4.44. I've heard some people say that he might be a 4.3 guy. Doesn't necessarily look like it, but he's not a slug by any means. And then some of the guys that he kind of could look like he may ultimately become. You're talking about a Torrey Smith, Torrey Holt, and then our very own Garrett Wilson as some of the pro comps that you can really see on film for a guy like Malik Nabers. So the hope is here that we really do have an elite tackle that's still on the board, but in a world where we don't want to settle for the fourth or fifth best tackle and we decide to go and find the best mate to pair up with Garrett Wilson, Malik Nabers looks like an elite option for us. So let me know what you guys think specifically about his game, but also I'm just curious until I drop the Roma Dunze scouting breakdown. Would you take Malik Nabers over him, or do you value something out of Roma Dunze's game a little bit better? Outside of that, though, I'll catch you guys again. Appreciate it.